it's the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, or Aggies, these guys have got you covered.
Time to eat, fellas.
You're locked on to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
1, 2, 3, move it.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Want to remind you about Win Ticket Wednesday, your chance to win every week. This week, tomorrow, you can win tickets to go see the Pro Bull Riders Unleash the Beast tour stop at Delta Center on February 6th. Get your tickets at SeatGeek.com or listen all day tomorrow for your chance to win. Let's talk some NBA basketball. The Jazz are back at it tonight against the Clippers on an NBC game. So national TV. First time this year?
First time in years, it feels like.
Yeah, it does. Joining us now, he covers the NBA for Bleacher Report. He's our friend Eric Pincus. What's going on, Eric?
I'm happy to be here. Let's talk some Utah Jazz. Looking forward to it. How you guys doing?
I'm not sure anyone wants to talk Jazz basketball nationwide. We will get to the Jazz. I am curious, Eric. We're a little past the midway point of the season. Do you feel like there's been like a singular storyline? What's the overriding narrative of this year in the NBA? Because, we cover it so closely. And I'm thinking big picture, there's a lot of little things that jump out to me. I'm wondering if there's one of which the entire league revolves around.
That's a good question. The start of the season, the first part was, would the Thunder challenge the Warriors for the all-time record? So that was sort of, they lost like one game for months, it seemed like. Maybe the onslaught that is the San Antonio Spurs and what Victor Wembanyama and that team's going to be, how good the Pistons are in the East and maybe how good the Celtics are, despite Jason Tatum. But I'm not sure if it's a good question. What's like the running thread? We've had some rough situations with Terry Rozier, some gambling situations, the Kawhi Leonard investigation that's still ongoing with aspiration with the Clippers. So, behind the scenes, there's maybe some concern over the state of the league as a whole with some of these things that are, uncomfortable to talk about as far as the NBA is concerned. But yeah, I think those are the overarching stories. We're heading to the trade deadline. So I don't think we'll have like a Luka to the Lakers storyline like we did last year, which was, clearly the big one.
How many teams could possibly challenge OKC in the West, if any?
Well, the Spurs are a really good matchup. They have really, relentless attacking guards. And then you've got Victor Wembanyama, who's, ridiculous. And then, they're just well built. They've got a lot of, youth athleticism. They're just improving. I don't know if they're ready. The usual progression of a team is you go from lottery to playoffs to an early exit in the playoffs to maybe making a leap. And, I don't know if they're going to be able to cut some steps. Feels like the Thunder cut a little bit, like they won maybe a year earlier than the normal progression. So maybe the Spurs will match them and be a real threat. We're waiting for Jokic to get back healthy. The Rockets are there. They're talented. They can play defense. They can score. So I don't want to discount them. The Wolves seem to show up sometimes really well and sometimes not. Don't trust the Lakers defense, and unfortunately the Warriors aren't healthy. Out east. I'm very curious. I don't really know. The Knicks may be the best team suited for the playoffs, but they have not been great for a period of time. So I'm curious to see what Detroit is and what Boston is come playoffs.
I never bought, Eric, some of the messaging of, maybe Fred VanVleet getting hurt is a blessing in disguise for the Houston Rockets. It's not like he's coming back midway through the year. His season's over, and they don't have a point guard. But I do think that maybe Jokic getting hurt is a blessing in disguise for the Nuggets. They've been so bad over the last few years with him off the court, and his plus-minus and his on-off is so drastic. But they've been really good with him off the floor these last 15 games or so. This seems like the type of thing where they're building some momentum and learning how to win without him. So when he comes back, assuming Aaron Gordon's healthy and Christian Brown's healthy, and they get this full roster, they look really dangerous to me.
Yeah, it's a, what is it, like an oxymoron? Like Jokic makes everyone better, no question. Like the best passing center maybe we've ever seen. He makes that team a contender. However, and it's a big however, is that he is in the way of others developing into what they're going to be, because that team is heliocentric around Jokic. So maybe Peyton Watson or some of these young guys are just not going to get the same opportunity. That's it's not a negative. It's not a slight on Jokic. It's what happens when you have a win now team. The win now players play and the young players don't develop. And that's usually how teams get old overnight, it seems, where, the win now players start to age out and the young guys haven't come along enough because they haven't gotten the chance. So, obviously, if you're the Nuggets, you want Jokic to be healthy. You want to be at the top of the conference. You want to have home court advantage. But they're third in the West, tied with the Spurs. As we said, the Thunder got off to such a hot start too, is about as high as they ever were going to get, and they're in that range. So, it's you want Jokic back. I mean, I'm not rooting for a player or a team, but just for having the best players in the world on the court, you want him back. You want to see the Nuggets at full strength, and now their version of full strength might be something different altogether. Now that these young guys have had a chance to really embrace just the minutes without worrying about failing or being yanked because they're not helping win right now. They had no choice. They barely had 8 players some nights to even go, and yet they'd somehow find ways to win. So great coaching and great player development, finally getting a chance to show their stuff.
Ben and I do one of those cliche radio segments before the season where we make our predictions. And the East being so wide open, I guess, for lack of a better term, I made the mistake of picking the Cleveland Cavaliers, which, they're sitting at 28 and 25th in the East. Why are we talking about them atop the East? Why is Cleveland not better, I guess?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, there are a lot of, terms that people are afraid of. One of them is the second apron, and it's this boogeyman of penalties and whatnot. And the only team right now that's above the second apron, this line in the sand, is the Cavaliers. And so they're paying as a front office for a win now team. They're looking at their team and saying, we have everything we need to win right now. Last year we were the best team in the East, got knocked out in the second round, but we'll be better with continuity. Unfortunately, they're not. They look like a very solid B, you know what I mean? And when you're paying top dollar for a solid B, that's not great. And so some of it is injuries. I know Garland missed a lot of the season. They've had guys in and out for quite a bit. But I don't know. Max Strus, he's not healthy. They did trade away a couple of guys who helped them last year. Isaac Okoro, and who else? They lost Ty Jerome, who's been hurt all year anyway. So even if they had kept him, he probably, assuming the same injury, he wouldn't have even played. So it's a tough one. I think that teams aren't going to stay at these high levels for long. So they need to really soul search and decide, do they start backpedaling at the trade deadline, which is in less than a couple weeks, February 5th. Do you get out of a Garland or a Jared Allen or a DeAndre Hunter? The team is interesting. They have 2 guards who are, Donovan Mitchell's a big 6'3", he's not like he's not like 150, 160 pounds at 6'3", but they don't have a lot of height in the backcourt. And the idea is that their front court of Allen and Mobley can offset that lack of size in the back. But I don't know if the combination works. I think Mobley probably needs to be the 5 full time. You probably want Donovan Mitchell as your lead guard with like a defensive-minded 2. Well, basically combo guard. If we can go back like an Eric Snow, if you remember,
right, with
Allen
AI.
Iverson.
Yeah.
Right? Allen Iverson was like 165 maybe pounds.
Generously, yeah.
Yeah, and they had Eric Snow, who was a combo guard who played defense and could score a little bit, super tough. Aaron McKee, like guys who can complement and let Donovan Mitchell go out there and do what Luka's doing, do what other guys are doing, score a zillion points a game, and maybe find a different combination. And I think they need to do so by reducing the payroll. So, but I don't know that they'll pull that plug in the next couple of weeks, but I feel like it's inevitable that they're going to do it over the summer if they don't, because you just can't stay at this high level. It freezes up your draft picks down the road. It limits your flexibility. They're basically the same team next year if they don't start to unwind this a little bit. So I just think it's the combination. It is one of the perplexing questions of this season for sure. The Cavaliers' lack of success.
You said an interesting term there, pull the plug. At the trade deadline, because it's a bit of a zero-sum game, if a good player leaves one team that pulls the plug, he goes to another team, which means they're plugging it in. Do you think we see more sellers or more buyers? I mean, more teams pulling the plug or more teams trying to go for it at the trade deadline? Because it seems quiet 8-9 days out now.
Yeah, I have very mixed messaging, mixed feelings, because it really depends on like who I talk to. I spoke to somebody with the team the other day who thinks there's going to be a ton of action. I'm a little more conservative in what at least what I've heard to this point. The challenge in the West is that the teams that would be buyers at the top need to feel like there's a reason to challenge OKC, to challenge the top teams, the Spurs, the Nuggets. Are there any teams that can make that leap? And in the East, there is that opportunity because the Pistons are unproven. They are very good, and they probably don't agree with me. But in terms of like, they don't have a resume yet with this group of going to the conference finals and winning a title. New York has a conference finals. Celtics without Jason Tatum, who knows, obviously had championship pedigree, but they lost a lot of their main pieces that did that. I left out the Raptors, who are among the top 4 teams. They're a really good defensive team. The point is that it's pretty wide open in the East. So there could be teams that are jumping that would make them buyers. There are definitely sellers. I think that, talking to people around the league, 2026 in June is a very, very strong draft. And 2027 is more of a mystery box where teams aren't projecting that's the year to go chase the lottery and whatnot. So I think there are more teams that want to sell. I could see, for instance, and not saying this happens in aggregators, plug your ears, but like Jaren Jackson Jr. with Memphis, do the Grizzlies want to pay that large contract, or do they want to get maybe some draft comp, maybe as early as in June, to go and hit the draft a bunch of times, get 2, 3, 4 picks, including their own out of moving Jaren Jackson. And so obviously John Morant is available, according to many folk, although I don't know if there's a market for it. But I do think there are sellers. I do think there are buyers. There's the big, what the elephant in the room, so to speak, is Giannis Antetokounmpo. Whether or not the Bucks will eventually move him now. He's hurt. Does that change the equation? And I think there are a lot of teams that maybe would be buyers, but just the prospect that if they wait until July, they might be able to get Giannis then. And so maybe they don't buy now because they wait till then. I mean, there's a long list of teams that we can go into, and I think every team has a buying point or a selling point, where like they could go either way. Not every team, obviously, like the Thunder aren't selling at any point, but a lot of teams, I think, in the right move, in the right situation, would love to make a leap, or maybe make a plummet towards the lottery, the opposite of a leap. So, buy, sell. So, I'm very excited to see. This is always one of my, among the best times of the year is leading up to the trade deadline. Whatever the result, it's always a lot of fun to try to make sense of it.
The big story around here today, Eric, people are bent out of shape about Ace Bailey not making the Rising Stars Challenge, even though I think that is basically meaningless and he should enjoy his vacation. But I'm curious if you have any thoughts on Ace and the season he's having so far, or his potential, or really wherever you want to go with that.
Well, I mean, Ace is, he's a grown man. He's 19. He's an adult, but he is, in NBA terms, he's a baby. And when you're a baby at 19 and you come in and average double digits and you show flashes of what he's shown, if you're the Jazz, you should be happy with what you're seeing. If you're a fan of the Jazz, you should be happy. And this is by no means a finished product as an NBA player or even as an adult. He's got a lot of growing up to do, and that's not slighting him. That's just the number of how many years of life he's had. So I think that the Jazz have, at least, from when I talk to folks around the league, they have a relatively positive environment for development. They have a good coach, they have a good staff, and they put a lot into their players, and their players can grow here. And so, not every player sticks around. Eventually, some players get traded, and that's just the nature of the league. But I think he's in a good place. I know there was a lot of consternation around the draft or whether or not he wanted to be here or not. But with Keontae George and Collier and, some of the young guys, Filipowski's making, and Sensabaugh, and, guys who are starting to, show what they can be, and hopefully with the Walker Kessler healthy next year, and assuming they don't make any drastic changes, you can start to see like there's something brewing here. And I think Ace has a real shot to be a part of that. And yeah, I would like to see him in the Rising Stars game. He should be there. He's not. It's not necessarily this doesn't define his career in the least. It'll be a memory, and if he gets a few days off, that's not a bad thing either. But yeah, no, it's exciting to see young guys try to figure it out, and it's natural to be frustrated when they don't. Those moments when they're not doing what you want them to do. But you can't become a great player without that. You can't. I mean, Utah. I live in LA, so the Kobe air balls against Utah is infamous in his development. Not to say that Ace is going to turn into Kobe, but I use that when I talk to young players and my kids when they were playing, is that like you have to go through that kind of, and I don't like to use the word failure, but you have to go through those moments of not succeeding to become what you're going to be. And so I think, you're going to get a mixed bag with Ace, but he's still averaging double-digit points as as I said, like an NBA baby. And I think he's in a good place to develop.
What's the perspective on Keontae George? Locally, we see him, and the change from what we saw his first 2 years. I mean, it's night and day. He's a totally different player. His attention is totally different. His intention is totally different. How's he viewed nationally? Because he's had some huge performances, but I'm guessing people aren't tracking his performances night to night.
Well, I mean, I live in circles of people who work for NBA teams who pay attention to what's going on instead of maybe. If the national audience isn't paying attention, that's their loss. That's just the reality, because he's a problem. I mean, he's gained confidence, which you want to see second, third year guys step into, what they're going to be. And he's also, 22, he's starting to become really what he will be as like an NBA adult. That's around when it starts. So he's showing everything that you want to see. He's shooting the three, well enough, on a pretty high volume. He's not like a 40, or he's not like a Steph, but he's shooting well, and he's 24 points a game. I mean, come on, that's like finding 20-point scorers in this game. And I know that scoring is inflated the last few years, and so we have more 20-point scorers, but he's incredible. I mean, he's averaging great assists. He's unselfish. There'll be some turnovers with a young guy, also on a team that's not really finished in terms of, this is not the Jazz as they will be when they make a run for the playoffs. They will evolve. And so when you're a point guard on a team that's not great, there's going to be more turnovers. Some of them are going to be on Keontae developing. Some of that's going to be on just, the team not quite being there. But he's an end game player who likes to take big shots, and that's going to come with misses and clutch moments where he's not clutch. But that's the best players of all time have those, right? You remember the clutch ones, but you forget, oh yeah, they missed like just as many as they had made. So he's the guy that they go to in Utah to take a lot of those shots. And so that just takes, certain amount of makeup to be able to step into those moments, live with the ones that don't drop. He's fun. I think, people look at him as a building block for this Utah team. And so, building blocks are hard to find, I mean, especially where you drafted him. I forget the number, but he was not top 10, right?
Yeah, 15, 16, somewhere in that range. Yep.
Yeah. So he was outside the lottery, no less. So it's kind of like Tyrese Maxey, who is 21 or so. When you can find these guys in the lottery or outside the lottery, like end of lottery, just outside of it, 15 to 20, that's money in the bank. And then, as I said, Utah is known for, or at least has the reputation for putting in the time into their young guys and, letting them flourish. So obviously I don't think the fans are in love with the record over the last year or so. But I don't know that a player like Keontae can develop similar to what we talked about with Denver, where they're expecting wins right now and not letting him, don't want to say fail, but let him make those mistakes, let him develop, because that's just the process of how an NBA player becomes great, is by not being great for a period of time until, it all starts to click.
Eric, we appreciate you and your valuable time. Thank you very much. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you. Anytime. Thanks for having me.